How you doing, Doc?
Hello, Holden. It's nice to see you again.
Good to see you. Thank you.
Okay, Holden. So what I'd like to do before I begin each session is to sort of go over previous sessions to make sure we're on the same page and I haven't misunderstood anything. Is that okay with you?
Fine by me. What do I care?
Okay, great. Holden Caulfield. So you're one of 4 children, 3 living, 1 deceased. You say your parents are nice enough, but don't seem to be too close to either of them. Is that accurate?
Yeah, but let's move on from my parents, Doc. They're real touchy about anything like that. Why, they'd probably have 2 hemorrhages apiece if they knew that I was telling you anything personal about them.
Of course. You don't have to talk about your parents if you don't want to. We'll move on to your siblings. So you have a 10-year-old sister named Phoebe, who you love dearly, and had a younger brother named Ali, who you also loved. He tragically passed away at the age of 10 from leukemia. You weren't able to go to his funeral because you were in the hospital with injuries to your hand from breaking all the glass windows in the garage. You also have an older brother named DB, who's a writer working in Hollywood.
Shh. He's a total sellout, a prostitute. He should have stuck to writing books. He was good at that.
Okay, moving on. So, you like museums, reading and writing for English class, but only when you feel like it, and especially your little sister Phoebe. You also liked your old classmate James Castle and your brother Ali before they passed away. You hate change, not being able to say goodbye, conformity, and phonies.
You can say that again, Doc. I hate phonies.
Oh, I'm aware. Okay, let's see. You just got out of Pensy Prep for failing out of too many classes. Before that, you attended the Wooten School and Elton Hills, and left both schools likely under the same circumstances, although you claim you left Elton School because there were too many phonies. You only have a handful of friends, and you aren't too terribly fond of most of them. Ward Stradlater is your roommate, but you don't like him too much because you think he's entitled and a secret slob, but mainly because he went out with Jane Gallagher, who you seem to like very much. You think Jane is nice, you think she's innocent, and that Ward treats her like she's just another notch under his belt. Robert Ackley is your dorm neighbor and you mostly find him annoying and gross, but you also feel sorry for him and ask him to hang out sometimes. You seem to have better relationships with girls than you do with boys. You're still good friends with Sally Hayes, even though sometimes you get mad at her and yell at her. And, of course, you're extremely fond of Jane Gallagher. You think she's pretty, you can't stop thinking about her, and you respect her, and you don't seem to feel that way with most people. I think you would probably consider your kid sister, Phoebe, your very best friend. You seem to love her and care about her more than anyone else in your life. You seem to really struggle with change and want things to stay the same, hence why you don't want to become an adult. You also struggle to maintain relationships and communicate with other people properly. You've experienced quite a bit of tragedy in your life, from Jane Castle's suicide to, especially, your brother Ali's death. His death has left a lasting pain in your life, and your inability to come to terms with it has negatively impacted you in many ways.
I didn't even get to go to his funeral, Doc.
I know, that couldn't have been easy, Holden. But I'm very concerned about your patterns of behavior. You're extremely cynical, hatch hastily conceived plans often, and engage in drinking and smoking as an escape mechanism to avoid reality. You're also impulsive, erratic, and you lie regularly. I think you'd be surprised to know, Holden, that perhaps the reason you hate phonies so much is because you worry that you yourself may be a phony. I mean, you seem to value and admire honesty in the few people that you do like, and despise most people for their lack of honesty. But you freely admit yourself that you lie all the time. In fact, you think you're one of the biggest and best liars in the world, lying about things that don't even need to be lied about. Did you ever stop and think that maybe you hate phonies so much because you think you yourself might be a phony?
I don't know, maybe. I guess I never looked at it that way before.
Well, it's not all bad though. I think you'd be surprised to know that you actually care about people a lot more than you think you do. Why do you think you're so obsessed with making sure people maintain their innocence? Why do you think you were so mad at Ward when you thought he took Jane's innocence? Why do you think you fantasize about catching the kids as they fall from the ride? You couldn't even seal a deal with Sally in the hotel room. You just wanted to talk. You're a good person, Holden. Deep down inside, you're a good person, and you've been jaded by a life of tragedy. You think avoiding trying hard and applying yourself and avoiding responsibility will somehow keep you from growing up, but it won't. You'll have to grow up sometime, Holden.
I mean, I guess so. It just sounds awful, Doc. I gotta tell you, it doesn't sound too good at all.
Well, Holden, maybe one day you'll change your mind. What I'm more concerned about right now, though, is that from what I can glean from our several sessions, I think you're most likely suffering from PTSD. I think the death of your brother has had a profound impact on your life and how you deal with people and your own and other people's emotions. I think this may also be contributing to why you have issues with closure. The fact that you weren't able to attend Ollie's funeral is perhaps a big part of why you have such a problem with closure. And I think the fact that you haven't been able to really come to terms with Allie's death most likely has a lot to do with why you hate goodbyes in general. You yearn to find closure in other situations because you haven't fully processed your brother's death. I also think that your deep desire to save other children stems from the fact that you couldn't save your brother. But aside from the PTSD, I'm afraid you may also be suffering from depression. You struggle deeply with loneliness and find it very difficult to form and maintain relationships. You have also had a hard time communicating with people. I say that you sometimes attempt to make an effort to create connections, but usually your intensity tends to drive them away, which leads to even more loneliness. You have to understand that you're prone to overreaction and extreme cynicism, and most people, even the ones you want to give a chance, don't want to be around that much negativity. You're not doing yourself any favors by assuming everyone's a phony. There's a lot of good people that you're missing out on by always assuming the worst in them. I'm especially concerned about all your risky behaviors. I think they stem from the fact that you try so hard to be tough all the time. And I want you to know, Holden, that you're not alone in that. There's a doctor named William Pollock who wrote an article called Inside the World of Boys, Behind the Mask of Masculinity. In it, he discussed that boys often wear masks as invisible shields and create personas to show the outside world a feigned self-confidence and bravado to hide their feelings of vulnerability, powerlessness, and isolation. I think your excessive drinking, smoking, lying, and contempt for people is a mask to cover your pain.
Okay, but what am I supposed to do about that, Doc?
Well, Holden, I think you can really benefit from a combination of different therapies, if you're okay with it. I read an interesting article in the New York Times. I don't remember what it was called. I think it was Why Teenagers Act Crazy. It was by a man named Richard A. Friedman. In it, he discussed the prevalence of risky behaviors in teens such as yourself. Several of the teens they talked about in the article had grown to become adults who continued to have substance abuse problems and had their lives ruined by not addressing their childhood traumas. We don't want that happening to you. I'd like to help you live a happier, less negative life. I think you'd find the article interesting. It suggests that cognitive behavior therapy has been beneficial for many people struggling with a lot of the same things you're struggling with. It's a way of unlearning fears by being exposed to things that normally cause people anxiety, but in a non-threatening environment. Maybe we can try cognitive behavior therapy on you and see if we can get rid of the negative associations you have with things and to start looking at life more positively. It also might be a good idea to start you on some medications to see if that'll improve your mood as well. Does that sound like something you'd be interested in, Holden?
I don't know, Doc. Sounds like a bunch of phony bull to me, but I guess I'll give it a shot.
Okay, well, at least that's a start. I'll see you at our next session, Holden. Take care of yourself and don't get into too much trouble.
All right, Doc. Thanks a lot. I guess I'll see you next time.
I'll see you next time, Holden.
Appreciate it.